ホラーのプーさんのやつとか、そっち系見たかったんだけど、行ってみたら、アニメのキャラクターいっぱいで、I don't know, a single anime character なんだけど、みたいな感じの状況になって、
Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Mayami.
And the topic of the day is Halloween ban. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review at whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, Halloween ban. Halloween in Shibuya has rapidly become the place to celebrate Halloween in Japan. Get some friends together, dress up, grab some beer, and have a good time. That was until this year, where Shibuya's head of ward explicitly asked people not to come to Shibuya for Halloween, and today we're going to talk about it. I guess this is the day before Halloween in Japan, as in the 31st, but I guess for context, for those you know, actually, I don't know, was Shibuya celebrated on Halloween Day, or was it kind of the weekend before?
多分31日当日だと思うけど。
Okay, so I guess for all intents and purposes, we don't know whether Shibuya will have people there for Halloween yet. It is the day before Halloween, but we did get to go to an event on the 28th in the new Halloween location, which was Ikebukuro. But before we go into that, what's the context around Shibuya and Halloween in Japan?
渋谷ハロウィン、略して渋ハロ言うのか分かんないけど。っていうのは、いろんな人がコスチュームに着替えて、で、それを、練り歩く的な、ただの、なんていうの、コミコンです。
There's something else though. Is it illegal to drink while you're walking, to open, I think not open carry, but to drink outside in Japan?
それこそ今、このトピックの大事な点なんだけど、2019年より後からは、ハロウィンの日に限らず、路上とか、公園で飲酒が禁止されたっていうのは、書いてあるね。その渋谷区で。他の区は知らないけど。多分、ハロウィンで、いろんな人がゴミ捨てたり、飲酒してバカ騒ぎしたりっていうのが、いろいろ問題になって、渋谷区はそうやって決めたんだと思う。
Yeah, but generally speaking, it is legal to drink, like just walking around, doing wherever in Japan, which is a funny thing. There's a lot of things in Japan where they do a lot of things thinking about the safety of the children. One I can think about was I studied abroad in Kyoto for a bit, and Kyoto I think this had to do with children's safety from what I remember, but all stores except for izakayas, which are basically their versions of Japan's version of bars, have to close by 9 p.m. And at least the reason that my host mother said was so that kids aren't out partying and having fun, basically, but adults are allowed to because something. But I believe the whole thing about not drinking outside is also something tied to, well, if old men like to do it, it's okay. But if kids want to do it, but old men don't want to do it, then it's not okay. I don't know how you feel about that, but what type of prefecture is Shibuya normally? Because I feel like that has to do a large part with... sorry, not prefecture. What kind of ward?
District.
I think it's a ward. Yeah.
そう。渋谷、そうね。私の、私のイメージでは、渋谷は若い人とかが、メインな感じの街で、どちらかというと、オフィス街っていうよりかは、エンターテインメントみたいな感じ。例えば109っていう有名な、洋服とか売ってる、ビルがあるんだけど、そこは、ギャルとかね、若い女の子たちが、着るような洋服売ってたりとか、あとは、有名な渋谷スクランブル交差点。How do you say in English?
Shibuya Crossing.
そうは大きいね看板があったりとか、東京イメージすると渋谷って思う人も中にはあるかもしれないね。新宿も渋谷と似てるっちゃ似てるんだけど、どちらかっていうと渋谷の方が年齢層は若い気がする。
why? So this is something, I don't know if we ever talked about this, and we might do, this sounds like a fun episode to talk about what different wards in Tokyo have different like tendencies of like people who go to travel to them. But Tokyo is very large, and I actually don't even really know the designation of all the different, I'll say, popular train stops. Something that is like interesting about Tokyo is there's so many people, and the places that are most condensed where people go to are all centered around a circular train route called Yamanote-sen. And basically every stop, as far as I know, I mean, you can correct me on this, I don't know why, like, are the names of the train stations made by the train company or like for the different stops? Because I learned for a lot something I didn't know, which like many of the stops on the train aren't actually districts or wards, they're just stops on the train station, but they're so large and people go there so much that people just refer to the general area around the train station by the name of the stop. Is that true?
多分まあ場所によってその駅の名前とその地域の名前が一致するところあるんだけど、池袋とかは池袋駅っていうのと、地域の名前は池袋、何区なの？豊島区東池袋とか、豊島区なんだよ池袋は。
But but people don't refer, like I don't. That's the first time I'm hearing Toshima. I didn't even know that. I just think it's 池袋。
豊島区池袋なんだよ。わかんない。池袋っていうところがあるかわかんないけど、東池袋は確かある。
No, that's my point. That's my point. Is like the train. Really, their name is coming from the train at that point. I mean, the station, right?
わかんないな。どうなんだろうね。多分、鉄道会社が決めてるっていう面もあるとは思うけど、そこら辺ちょっと勉強しないとな。
I do know actually I do mention something. I did do a little for the next video, which I'll get onto for the main channel. I do little research about train naming, and the stations are ones in charge of naming. Now, in terms of why they chose their names and if they're relative to the wards or districts or whatever, that's a separate conversation. But anyways, back about Halloween. This year, there was I don't know if, I guess ban is the correct word, but although that's the one I'm using, but the head of ward said not to come, and there was a bunch of different reasons for it. But before we go into the reasons that he went, I think there's some additional context which is important, which is 2 years ago, I think, right? The Korea incident.
No,
last year.
Last year.
Okay, last year. Yeah, time is weird. Last year there was a big incident in Halloween in Korea where 150 some odd people, can't remember the exact number,
including 2 Japanese people.
Including 2 Japanese people, died at a Halloween event in one of the most popular locations that, from my understanding, is like similar to Harajuku or Shibuya in terms of the people who go there. And it wasn't like any violent crime. It was just there were so many people that people from behind got pushed forward, and then like a wave of force got sent over the whole thing, and then people got crushed under the weight of people. So these were kind of additional context. Shibuya is a place where a lot of people go, get drunk, pass out on the floor, and every year, there's getting more and more people, and Shibuya was starting to get known as a place that like is the party central. And another important thing about this is that there's not really any planning around any of these things. I don't know about the Korean situation either. It's just kind of like different tendencies of people go to different locations, different train stops. And Shibuya is just one where it's like drunk college students in my mind, or drunk like 20, 30-year-olds go and party. And you have that plus a natural congregation of people. And from my understanding, that is why the Shibuya, the head of ward, decided. Also, there was an incident, I think like 2-3 years ago, where somebody flipped over a car or whatever. But I don't think there have been any deaths so far. Are there any other reasons that that might have contributed to the Shibuya ward head wanting to encourage people not to come?
なんか大きなリーズンとしてはやっぱりそのイテウォンの韓国のね去年の事件があって、その人がもうさっき動画見たけど波打つような人の群衆で、コロナも明けてさ、結構いろんな人が観光客も多いし、日本人もその渋谷行く人多くなるっていうこともあって、多分その渋谷区長さんはそれを考慮して来てほしくないっていうのは言ってるんだよね。で、 面白いことになんか渋谷ハロウィンっていうのがそもそも始まったのが最近らしくて、2000、ちょっと待ってね。詳しい年代はわからないんだけど、2015年ぐらいから、流行り始めたんかな、その渋谷に、集まって練り歩く的な感じのイベントが。で、そうね。しかも、その渋谷ハロウィンっていうのは他の区の、ハロウィンのイベントと違って、別に、渋谷の区自体が、私たちは渋谷でハロウィンイベントやります。来てくださいとかやってるんじゃなくて、勝手に人が来ちゃうんだよね。っていうのは面白いところなんだね。
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain about like each ward kind of has its own identity. And this is one of the interesting things as well. And we'll go into like where Halloween is happened kind of now. There's a chance I'm debating whether I want to do it or not, but I'm leaning on the side of doing it. And if I do it, I might have to do a very quick main channel turnaround video where I kind of want to document whether or not something's going to happen in Shibuya or not, which would be tomorrow. But I don't know. I guess if I don't do it, then I was just doing something else. But anyways, the thing that I find interesting is that according to you, there are plenty of times all across the year where Japan gets extremely crowded. And so to me, especially Shibuya gets crowded like all the time, just like an average Saturday or Sunday, extremely crowded with people. And so for me, I feel like this might be just more of like a public press thing or something, because there's never, as far as I know, been an incident of somebody dying like in Shibuya. And the worst thing I heard was people flipped a car over. But in like the grand scheme of things, I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
結構how do you say? まあ逮捕される人はいるって感じかな。うん、なんかそういう警察沙汰になることは多い。
Yeah, I mean, police arresting people doesn't mean that they're necessarily doing something that bad, though. Like, that's a whole other video that I've been working on as well. But anyways, so you might be thinking, like, or because I was confused initially when I heard this story, that this was just relative to the ward head, and I don't know much about ward heads, if I'm being honest. Almost nothing. The kuchol. I don't really know who elects them or how that works as well. So this wasn't like Japan being concerned about like a national public safety, which is kind of what seemed like what happened in Korea. It was just a ward head. And because of that, there was another, I'm not sure if you read this, but the Ikebukuro ward head basically said the exact opposite. He heard that the Shibuya one was like, hey, yo, don't do Shibuya here, or don't do Halloween here. And then Ikebukuro was like, okay, well, just do it over here then. And then so that kind of happened. And now we're going to talk a little bit about our experience of what that looked like from the first, I should have probably documented that, honestly. But the first, what's it called? Halloween, where Shibuya wasn't the central focus, and instead Ikebukuro. But first, what is Ikebukuro like, and what kind of people go there before we explore? Yeah.
なんか池袋はね、なんだろう、渋谷と比べて、まあどちらかというと静かなのかな。で、どちらかというとちょっとまだ綺麗な方なのかな、渋谷に比べて。なんか渋谷行くとやっぱりちょっと生ゴミの匂いがするみたいな感じで、ちょっと渋谷は別にネガキャンしてるわけじゃないんだけどね。ちょっと駅着きますと、ちょっとゴミの匂いするなみたいな感じあるんだけど、池袋はなんかなんていうのね。池袋、東口と西口があるのね。で、東口の方がサンシャインなのかな確か。サンシャインの方が人が多くて、そっちがまあメイン、ストリートがある感じ。で、
Sunshine there's something called Sunshine City, which is a large mall complex, but also surrounding. Yeah. Oh, what? Underground too?
So underground.
Yeah, underground and extending like a little in front of it with a park area, which is all based around, it is explicitly based around Pokemon, right? Sunshine City?
Pokemon?
Isn't that a direct reference to Pokemon? Sunshine City?
違うと思うけど。
Well, Sunshine City, as far as I'm pretty sure, is a thing. And maybe I'm crazy.
逆でしょ。サンシャインシティが先でさ、後からポケモンじゃない。
Well, Pokemon's from the 90s, so how long Sunshine City?
もっと前じゃない。
Okay, well, I don't know. But either way, Pokemon's a huge part of the thing, of the identity of Sunshine City.
なんかちなみに、サンシャインの中にポケモンストアはあるよ。
Well, it's also just not just the story, but the whole thing when we went there was like Pokemon themed.
あ、そうなんだ。
Yeah, there's just random Pokemon everywhere, like full size like Pokemon.
たまたまじゃない。まあいいや。
Well,
で、そうだ。池袋はどういう街か。 観光地でもあるっちゃあるのかな、そのサンシャイン通りとかね。あと、まあ、水族館もあったり、あと結構アニメ好きの人が多いイメージあるかな。なんか結構コアな感じ。ハロウィーンだけコスプレするとかじゃなくて、もうなんかコスプレを趣味としてるような人が結構集まるイメージがあって、なんか普通にハロウィンに近い日じゃなくても、いつ行っても、ちょっとコスプレしてるっぽい人はたまにちらほら見るし、アニメートとかっていう、アニメに、特化したなんかストアとかあるんだけど、そういう系のアニメグッズ売ってる系の、ショップ結構並んでたりとかね。うん。
I will qualify though with I would think that in my opinion it's more women targeted anime and pop culture, whereas I feel like Akihabara is the one where you go to where you find the full extent of like all genres of anime. Because I've been inside, I mean both, but like Ikebukuro to me is like almost all the buildings are, most of the floors are dedicated to like anime that are like explicitly targeted towards women, like boy, like hot boy cats. There's like Blue Lock's a big thing. All these random anime that I have no clue what they are, with people generic hair swaps, and also the general public. Ikebukuro does have, I think, a very large general public population, whereas Akihabara is like almost entirely nerds, I feel like. But anyways, yeah. So what was the actual event like? Well, the first thing I'll just say is I didn't get actually, you might be able to look in the records to find this, but I was officially interviewed at this Ikebukuro Halloween event. And if you're looking at the video right now, these are not, Ayumi is not using the cosplay that she went as at the event because we lost the, oh gosh, what is it called? The hair tie. But I am cosplaying as Aladdin at the moment. And no, I did not bring an Aladdin costume from Japan. The first thing that I think I would mention that I find really cool about Japan cosplay, at least for those who do anime, is they have whole stores which are very hardcore about dressing up. This Aladdin example is not a very good example of that, because this is like a Disney IP. It just happens that I have brown skin, and this was like the cheapest one I could find, honestly, and it got people taking pictures of me because I'm assuming they're like, wow, you actually look like Aladdin. Aladdin. My apologies. I probably just drove people insane for a second there. Yeah, I'm an anime fan. Disney. I mean, whatever. I think I'm killing it. Anyways, as go ahead.
私らが行ったのは池袋ハロウィンってやつで、通称池ハロってやつでね、その池ハロっていうのが、面白いね。28日と29日にあって、土日ね。だから31日当日にはやらないみたいね。ってやつで、まあ、コスプレイヤーたちは、チケットを買って、で、更衣室とか、あと、プロのカメラマンと、あと、メイクアップする場所とかも、なんか全部、なんていうの、セキュアされてるっていうのかな、そういうことする場所。で、そのチケットが3500円とかするのかな、2500円。で、そういってコスプレイヤーたちが、まあ、準備してメイクアップしてってやって、なんだっけ、池さんパークだっけっていう、そう、なんか、広めの公園に集まって、なんか、結構写真撮影会とか、なんか、ちょっとステージがあって、こういうコスプレイヤーがいて、どうやって作りましたみたいなやってたりして、で、印象はね、初めて行った印象は、なんか、ハロウィンというよりかは、これなんかのアニメのコミコンかなみたいな。
Yeah, there was no, like, although there's some surrounding Halloween stuff going on, like at Sunshine Park, generally speaking, it definitely feels like the largest inspiration, which I mean, I think is cool, but at the same time, there's some, like Japan, we've had a whole holidays episode, I think maybe multiple at this point, but Japan likes to take only the aspects they like about a holiday and then just hyper drill on that. With Christmas, somehow dating became the thing, and KFC became the thing, which is
Baskin and Robbins.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
Christmas no ice cake.
Okay, we have Baskin Robbins. That's an update I haven't heard before. But for Halloween, and this is the part I think everybody likes, which is the dressing up. But things like trick or treating, as far as I know, like I heard people randomly saying trick or treat when they're taking pictures. Not how that works, but like I saw some people going trick, whatever. With you can
しかも
imagine.
trick and treat みたいな。あれ
I can't remember if they said or not, honestly, but they probably did. Probably if they did, it
ど
probably
っちもやるん
or.
かいっていう。
Yeah, so that's not well understood, and there's no really there's some vague idea of horror with some costumes. Like there was somebody dressed up as the new horror Winnie the Pooh movie, which was hilarious. Like the
あれ
Pooh from
怖かったね。なんか多分、あれと、なんか13日の金曜日、Friday the 13th
yeah
の、その、ジェイソンだっけ
yeah
あれやってた人も見たよ。けど、なんか本当に、ほとんどみんな、明るい青とか赤とかの、鮮やかな髪色をした、女のコスプレイヤーたちがめちゃめちゃいて、ハロウィンらしき怖い系の仮装をしてる人はあんまり見なかったな。
yeah. It was imagine you have like a generic anime character creator, but for some reason they only let you change the hair. That's kind of, I feel like, what 60% of the costumes were. But the remaining 40% were really cool. But basically what happens is there's a park area, there's like another park, and people were walking back and forth. One of them's like the main event hall. There was like a little bit of food, but I really feel like, was this the first year of this? Because I feel like
10周年で確か。
Oh yeah, I saw it was like the 10th year, but maybe it's the fact that I think it was bigger because they invited, like the person invited more people to it. But I definitely feel like completely different vibe than what I would assume because I'd never been to the Shibuya one. There's no drinking that I saw. I didn't see any people drinking alcohol. There were really many like food or other opportunities. It was mostly just people walking around being like, wow, you have a cool costume. And then people taking a picture. There was like an official cosplay competition going on, but in no offense to anybody who was participating there, it seems like most of the people there were in it for the love of the game, and like the most impressive costumes I saw were not part of the competition. There were people who had entire 3D, I don't know if it was 3D printed or whatever, Gundam suits, which looked like from a distance they looked like metal, and yeah, they were really well done. I saw one of them. There's a lot. I mean, it's time for me to drop some anime that people may or may not know here. But there were a lot of ones from Golden Kamui, which is like a Hokkaido-based anime. This guy's a big block in his head, and I saw somebody doing that, and he looked hilarious. Ayumi did not, and this I feel like what disappointed her a little bit was because this is.
マジで。これ、そう、私は結構怖いめのなんかハロウィンコスチューム見たくて、まあどちらかというとそのホラーのプーさんのやつとかそっち系見たかったんだけど、行ってみたら私アニメのキャラクターいっぱいで、I don't know a single anime character なんだけどみたいな感じの状況になって、ああみたいな。
I will say that yeah, they're in terms of, I don't actually know if the majority was anime characters because I'm not going to consider the rip-off discount Genshin Impact anime characters. But I would say that generic anime style characters were definitely, I feel like, the largest thing ever. But I mean, I'm not a horror character right now. I'm a Disney IP. But yeah, it was kind of like I think generally speaking, more so like a full-fledged cosplay event. Although I did like it, and there were also like, oh, what was it? I saw a full Evangelion costume, like all the armor, as well as one for the Hagane no Denkin Jutsushi, the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood one that I think you saw. Do you know the name? Have you heard the name before?
Hagane no Denkin Jutsushi?
Yeah.
Alchemist.
Yeah. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or Full Metal Alchemist is the name. But yeah, there was one where they had Alphonse, the full armor suit, and he was like tall too. So it was like literally just, it looked like you grabbed it straight from the anime. It was quite impressive. But as for other Halloween things happening at the time, I guess I might talk a little bit more about the interview in a second. But as far as we could really tell, there were like some restaurants running, some Halloween theme events. But in Ikebukuro, it did not seem like there was much else you could do unless...
なんだろうね。なんか一応そのハロウィンイベントとかで調べたんだけど、あんま出てこなくて、結構出てきたのがなんかホテルでのアフタヌーンティーが、
Afternoon tea, explain that.
そうそう。アフタヌーンティー知らないの？
As an you're
いや、
the
ア
first
メリ
person.
カンなの。
You're the first person who had understood what afternoon tea was.
待って、これブリティッシュだ。ブリティッシュの人がよくやるやつで、よくやるやつで。アフタヌーンティーってなんかちょっとさ、スコーンとか、その、なんて言えばいいんだろうな、ちょっとお菓子、ちっちゃいお菓子が、なんか、 その段々になってるなんかなんて言えばいいんだろうね。その日本語がトレーっていうとあれだな。まあ要するにいろんなお菓子が楽しめて、でお茶も一緒にやりましょうみたいな感じで、結構ホテルとかでやってるんだけど、それに加えてホテルでビュッフェブッフェがハロウィンがテーマで、そうバイキングそうがハロウィンのテーマであるよっていうのがあって、結構そういう系はあったんだけど、そのかぼちゃをカーブするとかね、ジャコーランタン作りましょうとかはないね。なかったねというか、そういうのを求めてたんだけど全然なくて。
I don't think I could also imagine trick or treat happen in Japan. And actually, something I forgot to mention. It's becoming a trend that schools are. I don't know about like neighborhoods banning trick or treat, but I know schools are starting to ban, or I guess ban is the correct word. In the U.S., ban celebrating Halloween because it's offensive to people who don't celebrate Halloween, like kids, because they feel left out. I personally think this is kind of ridiculous.
Is it in America?
In America, because I think it's just a dress-up holiday. I think it's saying like nobody. I think Halloween's a pagan, and I don't even really understand much about pagan anything. But I don't even like. I think it's a religion. Here's my thing.
あれケルトでケルト族みたいなのから始まって、それなんかちょっとね、キリスト教に関係あったっちゃあったみたいな、なんか忘れちゃった。
Also. Yeah, if you're mad at me for having a very bad understanding of pagan, then I'll just let you know, dude, when I hear anything, when I hear vaguely religion related, my mind just blanks out. And so my ability to recall.
じゃあ頑張ってね、ハロウィンの起源とかを調べたけどね、ちょっとね、忘れちゃった。
But, yeah, anyways, in people who are Muslim, they're like, oh, I don't celebrate Halloween, apparently as a thought. And so actually in a progressive thing, they're like, oh yeah, let's not celebrate it in schools. I think the vast majority of people aren't religious who are celebrating Halloween. So I do think it's kind of a dress up event. It's kind of like Christmas, but Christmas still has some ties to religion because because it has to do with a big events in Christianity. But at the same time, I do believe the majority of people who celebrate Christmas nowadays don't actually really have any major strong affiliation. So anyways, that's happening in the US. Trick-or-treating also has become more and more. I think like during COVID, it was something that people just didn't do for obvious reasons. But even before that, with a lot of the gun issues in the US, I think trick-or-treating has become less and less common. So although it might disappoint you, I think Halloween is kind of dying across the world. At least in Japan, never had the trick-or-treat. But I can't even imagine doing a trick-or-treat in Japan. Like neighbors are like so scared. I feel like for no reason though.
なんかそもそもね、日本って結構内と外っていう概念があるみたいな、他のどっかのエピソードで言ったと思うんだけど、なんか知らない人が他人のドアをノックするなんて恐怖だよね。だって知らない人がさ、家来るっていう時点でさ、警察呼ぶもん。なんか何しに来たんだみたいな。
I do think, although I'm not there's so many things about YouTubers doing things like triggering people in Japan, like almost intentionally. But I in my head, Halloween, like trick or treating as a kid was such a positive experience that I feel like, especially like a neighborhood building experience, because in the U.S. there aren't many really opportunities to, at least from my experience, to have any sort of like neighborhood development where you get closer to your neighbors. And I felt like Halloween was like the one event where you like go around to everybody's house, and the reason you do everyone is because you're trying to maximize your candy. And so as a kid, you're like, no, I'm going to every single house. And people would like turn off their lights if they didn't want somebody to come, but then you know the house, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that puts you on the kids' bad mental list. So I do feel like that the Halloween did serve a good role in there. So if we could bring that into Japan, where I feel it's warranted skepticism for the Japanese public. You're not going to get shot by a Japanese kid. You're not going to get razors put in your stuff. But anyways, I think the last thing I want to talk about a little bit is the interview, because I do think that even although this is the 10th anniversary of the Ikebukuro place, I feel like this is like really the first year where it got to be the time to shine. And when I was interviewed, I was just walking around and they just asked me. Like, I personally think it's because I'm like, I saw one black person in the entire event, and I was the only other person I saw that really was brown. Maybe there'd been one other person that I didn't notice. So maybe they just thought, wow, that person is Aladdin. And like, well, that's super impressive. And then like I had an American walk up to me and wanted to take my picture, but he spoke to me in Japanese, and I didn't want to blow his mental image that I was a Japanese person or something. So I responded back in Japanese. So if you're that American listening who thought I was a Japanese person doing a cool Aladdin costume, I need to tell you that I'm not even the one who suggested this. Aimi did. And and I didn't intend to buy it. I wanted to be a JoJo character. But my calling was found when we ended up finding it. It was so cheap. Anyways, the interviewer, almost all the questions were based around like, why are you going here instead of Shibuya? Have you heard about like Shibuya, Halloween in Shibuya? Where did you find out about this event? So I do think there was a really big interest on that. And if I do, I'm like pretty sure like 80%. I'm focused on another video right now. But if I do, maybe I'll like ask Asahi. Oh yeah, it was Asahi News, right?
Terebi Asahi.
Terebi Asahi, who like did the interview. So I might see if I can get some footage and maybe you can see it. You took a picture or video. We might put that. Maybe if I'm feeling that, we might put it up on the Twitter, the little clip. I might put it. Okay. Anyways, let us know if you celebrated Halloween this year. And if you're interested, for me, like one of the reasons I had this crazy turnaround, which I'll talk about for traveling, because I wanted to experience the Shibuya Halloween, but I ended up doing Ikebukuro. So yeah. 戻りました。
We're back.
最初のセクションではちょっと言い忘れたことがあるんだけど、今、ポッドキャストを聞いてる人なら、その画面を見てください。あいみと私は同じ部屋にいます。ついに日本に来ました。もう一度というか、パチパチパチパチパチパチパチ。
And I'm wearing a teacher, I don't know, like teacher themed costume. I don't think this is a costume though. Huh.
Yeah, 先生って感じ。
I know, just grab my suits.
そう。で、今私はアラディンと言ったんだけど、実際はあいみはハロウィン、28日の日は誰でしたか？
I was wearing like Wednesday Addams.
So Wednesday Addams. I think from the Addams family? Addams family? うん。で、目の、周りも黒くして、爪はやらなかったんでしょ。うん。で、そういうコスチュームやってた。でも、多分、ハロウィンの前の日、日本に着いたでしょ。うん。結構、昨日じゃなくて、先週のポッドキャストでは、結構こういう旅を、ちょっと楽しみの、真逆だった。全然、期待してなかった、期待していうか楽しみにしてなかったその4日間の旅行で、実際はどうなっただろうというと最悪だった。マジで。その前のエピソードがアップロードされた日はパナマでは抗議というデモがあった。でもプロテストという英語で言うとdemonstration
democracy じゃない？
Yeah, demonstration.
demonstration じゃない？
かない？デモは。
でもデモ can mean demonstration だけど in this case デモは democracy.
I'm talking about 抗議。
そう。
protest.
そう。
うん。あった。パナマのよくわからないけどあるなんか自然的な資料が、ある会社は使いたいからその国民は、いや、パナマの、なんていうか、そういう自然をダメにしない方がいいという声がたくさんあるから、みんなは抗議をやってるんだけど、私が、パナマからアメリカに戻る日、その、空港への道と、メトロを全部、クローズ、なんていうか、閉めさせようとした。閉鎖させるつもりさせるつもりがあったというなんか WhatsApp で そのメッセージを読んだだけど、実際は何も起こらなかった。でも、もちろん、パナマから戻れなかったら、日本に行けなかったので、そのなんか朝の3時に起きて、わざわざ空港まで行かなくちゃいけなくて、多分8時間待たなくちゃいけなかった。その最初の旅行の4日間は空港で始まった。その8時間の睡眠。すごく大変だった。
It's the worst if you have to sleep at the airport, right? Because you don't have a blanket or even a pillow and a proper, like place to sleep on. So, yeah.
全然寝れなかった。その4日間。本当に。空港で3回ぐらい寝た。寝ようとした。3回。毎回8時間、10時間と11時間。多分空港で30時間の空港の時間があって、で、飛行機の中時間は結局20時間だった。でも唯一のいいことは、日本に行くときは、私の隣に座ってる人は、その一番右の人は、真ん中に座ってる人を、なんか他の席に行ってもいいと聞いて、で、実際なんかできたから真ん中の席がなかった。誰も座る。
That's interesting.
それで、その一番長い、なんていうか、フライトは、私とその人だけだったって感じ。
Okay, I have one question. Which seat do you prefer? Aisle side or window side or the middle one?
窓席。
I prefer the aisle side because
なんで
I'm a person who can't like sit for a long time, so I need to move like regularly. So I have to go to the bathroom like more than like average person. So if I want to move, I have to ask the other people like if I can leave the seat. So it's better for me to sit on the aisle side. Yeah.
でも、アイル日本語だと何？
通路側の席ね。
通路側の席に座ってると、自分なんか、寝たいとしたら、もちろん、全然寝られないけど、一応寝ようとすることがたくさんあると思うので、もしそれがやりたかったら、他の人はトイレに行く、毎回行くと自分が起きないといけないでしょ。
At least like Japanese people, they, I guess, how do you say like, ちょっと遠慮する。遠慮するの。
何を？
だからlike, even though they want to stand, but like they try to hold it like as much as possible.
So endure.
Yeah, like 遠慮する, like hold back.
What do you mean? 我慢 be more like
遠慮するの。
遠慮する。Well, I think to endure or to hold in, I don't know, your piss. Or,
遠慮is, yeah.
I know 遠慮する can normally be like to, what's it called, hold back or refrain from a request.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in this context in English, I think it's more like that's what you're referring to. You're referring to they're not going to go to the bathroom, right?
Bathroom more like just stand up.
What about 11時間の日本のエロフライトにもなんかその長いフライトでもやらないってことどうする
Yeah, it's like I don't remember like last time I went to New York. Like the person who sit next to me didn't ask me to move. Like I guess it was just one time or two times. For the entire 11 hours. So, yeah.
でも1回か3回は結構やばいね。なんか寝たかったら。それは4時間ぐらいしか寝られないということでしょ。
No, I can't sleep anyway, so I don't mind.
でも今週は全然寝られるという話があったと思うんだけど、どうしたの？
What?
なんか、私の多分ちゃんと思い出してないかもしれないけど、あゆみは、いや、余裕じゃんとか。
No.
全然ダメ。
I can't sleep on the plane.
大変。 まあ、私の場合だと、その4日間ぐらい、多分、2時間か3時間しか寝られなかった。その1回、なんていうか、1回では。で、多分ほぼなんか総じて、その4日間で10時間ぐらい半端ない、なんか半端なしの睡眠を取れたって感じ。で、日本に着いた時、2時間半ぐらいの電車に乗らなくちゃいけなくて、で、次の日はハロウィーンだったって感じ。そう、それで時間全然なくて、結局、店で、まあ、アニメ、その、実際は、サムライシャンプルーの無限か、ボボボボボボボボボボボボの、ボボボボボボボボボボボボボボボボの主人公はボボボボボボの仮装したかったんだけど、それ見つけられなかった上に、ほとんどの仮装、まあ、なんていうか、コスチュームは1万以上かかったから、結局、こういう、アラディンを買うつもりだった。でもどうですかその、ジョイのアラディンの姿。アメリカ人と日本人は私の写真を撮ってくれたので。
Yeah, you look like Aladdin.
まあ、また、最後に言いたいのは、次のメンチャーの動画を待ってる人、ごめんなさい。この2週間は全部、なんていうか、忙しくて、旅行めっちゃあったから、全然うまく進んでないっていうか、編集する時間が完全になかった。でもこれから、すごく編集するつもりなので、期待してください。多分、時間かかるけど、でも頑張ってる。And we're back with the final section. And if you made to the final section, that means you send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with the common question, language related and or otherwise. And this week we have 3 comments, which I had to shorten some so we could get to all of them. And the first one is from Art Boy talking about our last episode, which was about apathy. In my experience, my Japanese friends aren't apathetic, but I don't think they have much opportunity to discuss things because they say their friends/spouses are questionable emoji face. But every time I ask them their opinion on a topic, they don't shy away from it, especially if we're speaking Japanese because they feel more in their element. But yeah, my friends definitely have opinions about society and stuff. From listening to other Japanese people talk, though, I do sometimes feel a lot of it doesn't personally affect me, so there's no need to take action/enlightened centrist takes. But that's not unique to Japan. And then another related question from Shockox about the same thing, about kind of apathy related discussion. He says, so if Japanese people aren't talking about politics, what do Japanese people talk about? Like after work in izakaya for 3 more hours, what could be so interesting that politics don't come up, especially while drinking? Thanks for the comments. Do you have any idea about the Shockox thing, the izakaya?
ショーコックスの、で、ドリンキングの間に何するかってやつ。これ、あれだね、上司の愚痴とかだね。愚痴大会とか仕事に関することを話すっていうのは、私の友達も言ってたね。その友達今、もう就職してね、仕事をしてる人たちに聞いたら、そうだね、愚痴大会だよね、みたいなの言ってた。
What kind of 愚痴？
なんかこういう人がいてこうで、こういうことあってこう大変だったんだよとか、こういう多分一般社会でね、上司こういうとこがあってねとか、多分そういうのじゃさすがに上司がいる前では上司の愚痴は言えないけど、多分部下同士の飲みとかだとそうなんじゃない？上司を含めた居酒屋の飲み会だと何を話すんだろうね。そこら辺気になるけど、なんかね。
So you evade izakaya meeting group ups like all the time, right? Like, isn't your friend? I think you mentioned before in podcast that a lot of like before through high school and beforehand, or not high school before you could drink, but go with college, with izakayas, and a lot of times you just like people know that you don't go because you like don't want to go drinking because every time you do, that's the only thing people want to do. I think you explained something like that before.
いや、まあでも。なんていうの飲まなくても居酒屋行ってわしのアルコールでとかできるよ。
So do you have any experience with like for example any of your medical professors, do they do izakaya with students?
Medical students でってこと
Yeah, with them. For example, like when I went studied abroad in Japan, one of our like Japanese professors took us out to an izakaya.
たまに友達同士で行くかな。
But not with your professors.
いや、プロフェッサーズとはやんないよ。
No, you don't?
やんない。
That's interesting.
だってそもそもだって距離感があれだからちょっとそんな仲良し小良しじゃないからBut
what about
the 上の人と下の人って感じ。
But bosses are like that too, right? So why are bosses okay, but not teachers?
そんな一緒の仕事仲間でさ、仲間じゃん。仕事仲間だけど学校のセリングだと先生と生徒だから。
I find it super interesting. Well, they're technically an employee, and you're paying. I don't know. You're in a way that it's even more. You're paying for a service if you're a student. I mean, I find it interesting though because I think I've gone out into eating with every single one of my Japanese professors in the U.S. and in Japan, American and Japanese. Actually, no, maybe one of my Americans. I haven't done it before, but I wonder where that comes from. Because the one of the ones I'm thinking of is like straight out of Japan, teaches in Japan. Japanese and but he's a dude though, so I don't know if that affects anything. I don't know if that changed anything, but maybe just him particularly. But as for Shawcock's question, what do they talk about? Apparently it's more of your boss talking and complaining. Is that what the sense I'm getting?
わかんない。そ
Okay.
こはちょっとわかんない。
We have to do an investigative piece on the izakaya conversations. My guess it probably is a lot of complaining, but I'd be concluding that based off of one of my friends who my Kyoto friend who's told me that when he goes to them with researchers, like fellow research and like the research heads for like what he's doing, a lot of times, like he said, it was really annoying to him because he literally had to take 2 weeks that was supposed to be his break and then use them on his research because he was like on crunch time, but every day he had to go and spend a bunch of time like with the research head in his department, basically to get on his good side. And yeah, because they're the ones that give you more opportunities. And I can't remember if he explicitly talked about what they talked about, but he definitely did not seem interested in going, but he felt obligated to do so.
そうだね。なんか仕事がまあ例えばさ6時とか7時に終わりますって言ってもその後に上司とかからじゃあ居酒屋行こう飲み会しようってなるともうそれがもう断れないじゃん。行けませんとかはまあできるのかもしれないけどやっぱりさそこはさじゃあ私行きますみたいな言わないといけない空気があってまあ要するに仕事の延長線上にその居酒屋がある居酒屋じゃない飲み会があるみたいな感じだから仕事がある時間に終わりますって言ってもその飲み会があるとまだ仕事あるんだみたいな感じになるとは思うよ。
Yeah, and I do want to say that about Artboy's comment about the opinions and enlightened centrism. I'm surprised. I think I've met one Japanese person, who has had like I'd say like world, like, politically formed, generally like has opinions and strong stances on different things. But every other Japanese person I've ever met, I think would fall into the category of 難しいね。どうすればいいでしょう? Or like if you ask them a topic about, a pointed question about any specific topic, they'll be like, 人によりますね. I think we've made a joke video about that on the main channel about what these phrases really mean. Do you know what enlightened centrism is? This is like I can tell Artboy definitely is in touch with U.S. politics with that sentence. It's like, oh gosh, what is the word? All things in moderation, basically.
適度にやりましょうとか。
Yeah, and I do feel like that sentiment is a very Japanese idea. There's so much idea about but the thing that bothers me is I don't think it's actual enlightened centrism. I feel like it's just, it sounds good because the whole notion of like things in balance and in moderation, I feel like is very Japanese. Like he's like, the seasons come and they go. You have one thing, you have yin and yang is an Asian thing, but Confucianism, which is, I feel like the basis of that, does influence Japanese philosophy and like culture, just for those who don't know. And so that idea of like the push and pull, I definitely feel like is very Japanese. So in my head, it doesn't come from people like when I hear enlightened centrism, I don't actually think people have an actual opinion that is like makes them centrist on a given issue. I think is more so that it's like, it sounds cool to have a response that's like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like the more poetic of a response that you can dish out that aligns with like Japanese core values, the more educated it makes you seem. Have you ever had I'm just thinking, I just realized, I don't think I ever asked a question. Have you ever had a conversation with any Japanese person about politics? What did you talk about?
でも前言ったじゃん、なんかその今のさ、イスラエルのさ。
Oh, that was really okay. Before
さ、そもそも私がさ、なんだよ、私自身が政治にさ、あんまり詳しくないからっていうのもあるけど、なんて言うんだろう。そういう深い話をする。
Wait, Fukai. I'm not talking about Fukai. I'm just talking about anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, wow, the cars are really annoying. Or like, oh gosh, for me, every 2 seconds I have a thing that annoys me. Like yesterday we saw people talking, like the street about bullying issues in Japan, depression issues in Japan, the hikimori. We've done a billion episodes on a bunch of different issues that you could talk about.
まあそういう話をするのは大体外国人の人と話すかな。
Yeah. So I don't know, our boy. Maybe throw your friends over here, dude. I'd be down to talk to some of your friends. I've got to. Are there more West? I mean, you don't have to answer whatever, but I'm wondering if your friends are more Western influenced, especially if they're ones learning English. I find that there's a big difference between Japanese student who's learning English independently and in terms of their worldliness, and Japanese person who only knows Japanese and doesn't use like language exchange apps or any other things like that. Like completely different types of Japanese person. And I think I fundamentally realized that it's going to be. I mean, although I've made a friend with a Japanese person who almost knows no English, it's probably the hardest kind of friend. In my opinion, Japanese guy who has no interest in learning other language, hardest person to make a friend of. I don't really know how to do it. I did it once. Don't think it's possible to do it again. Yeah, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
What?
Like the difficulty of making like even you, I feel, I know you have a decent amount. I mean, obviously most of your friends are Japanese people who don't really learn English that much. But I'm saying, I think culturally there's a big difference between Japanese people who like, you know, are more interested in learning English and those who don't. In terms, like fundamentally, in terms of how they view the world. I remember talking to somebody who was basically like, oh no, my world is like, you know what I'm saying, 100% of my world is Japan, which makes sense. All my interest in Japan. Why would you learn about foreign affairs? I don't plan to ever leave Japan. I'm not interested in traveling to any country.
よく言われるよね、なんかさ、私がなんか、英語興味あるとか、なんかその、ニューヨークのホスピタルにね、エクスチェンジプログラム行ったけど、なんか他の人たちは、もうずっと日本いるから、私は生涯日本で過ごすから英語はいらないみたいな言ってる人は結構いるよ。
Yeah, and then our last comment from Oddity, as she says it herself. So I have a totally unrelated comment because I'm in need of some entertainment right now. How come there's no sex in anime? Yes, there's hentai and all kinds of kinky subgenres, yaoi, yuri, and harem, and whatnot, but I'm talking about mainstream anime aimed at adults. There's never any portrayal of physical intimacy, even when it fits the storyline and is totally called for. The most you get are these indirect verbal innuendos and some subtext sexual tension. What about like a kiss or a hug or something? Is that like in Japanese live-action dramas as well? Or maybe I'm altogether wrong and I've been watching the wrong anime all this time. Thank you for the comment, Oddity. I would say, and there's something I may point out, which I think is very poignant, is I don't think sex is, well, I mean, this isn't what you talked about, but for one, I don't think sex is actually very taboo in Japan in terms of media, or I guess you should say nudity.
It is.
Sorry, nudity. But sex, I think is. Nudity, I don't think it is, especially with an anime as a genre. I mean, I'm just telling you from all my experience. Like, there's so many anime where, like, do we have to? You have to go to Akihabara. Like, I was talking with one of our friends here, and he's like, and a lot of Americans feel this way. And Australia banned anime because of this, and like a lot of anime, where there's a lot of very, very scantily clad. By nudity, I mean, sorry, nudity, not nudily. I mean very, very, very scantily clad. Let's say young. I'm just gonna say children, older children, young adults, whatever. And if you go to like any like store like Mandarake or like any place that's doujinshi, it's not all porn, but there's a huge section of porn. And you know, if you're not familiar with anime and you can identify a 2,000-year-old girl from one who's 14, then then you might be thinking, wow, there's a lot of nudity. But I'm assuming you're not talking about that. But the thing that Aimi pointed out, which I think is worth mentioning, is that like all anime has like a target audience, and a lot of anime that's like most popular, you know, especially Shonen Jump, is Shonen Jump, i.e. like either young adults or like young, like kids, like maybe in their teens, and so that's why there might not be explicit nudity. But there are some new shows, like I said, like Chainsaw Man has a whole sex scene in it. Like it's a new show, and I do know like there's plenty of examples of when you get like into the seinen genre. There's like I think Psychopaths, Berserk has a sex scene. There's gosh, I'm trying to think, but I think it actually is like if you go into like one's targeted more towards adult, it does play a role. But I do believe like yeah, explicit sex is part of a like a, you know, I'm not sure if have you seen any American like old school like 2000 mid 2000 American movies. There's a whole bunch of like sex like literally and that's the thing I was hearing about statistics how the youth of America don't want to have as much sex in their romantic movies, where this is something that an experience I feel like every American has related to.
確かに
Go ahead.
失礼。確かになんかいろんなムービーでさ、そういうパートが入ってるやつとかあるよね。なんか
like 2 minutes of like some sex scene in bed where the girl like grabs the
そうなん
guy.
かよくさ、私の家族で一緒に
Oh, you know
ム
what
ー
I'm
ビ
talking about. Yeah.
ムービーナイトとかさ、あれよくやるんだよ。その私が実家に帰った時にね。そうするとさ、やっぱり一緒に見ててさ、なんかそういうシーンが出てくるとさ、なんかちょっと気まずくなるよね。で、隣チラチラ見ながら、お父さんの方見ながらなんか、なるけど、これずっと見て、目をそらさずに見るのが正解なのか、ちょっと下向いた方がいいのか、ちょっとトイレとか行ってトイレに避難する方がいいのか、ちょっと歯磨きって言って歯磨きしに行くのがいいのか、ちょっとよくわかんないから、ちょっと、最近はちょっと画面をずっと見続けて、何もないようにプレテンドするけど、ちょっと気まずいよねっていう。
I will say maybe this is like a cultural expectations thing, and I know French films I think have like way more role of like sex and nudity from what I understand, but in my personal opinion, like if I'm trying to watch something, my feeling of there's a way I feel like we can use to like, you know, sensuality, I should guess, or like eroticism, that way can be used to like elevate a plot, but a lot in, you know, my personal opinion, like masturbating and watching a film are two different experiences, and there are ways I've tastefully seen like a sex scene done in it, but like if we're talking about Japanese media, I just don't have any I feel like they're doing it right. I don't trust Japanese authors to find the nice balance with their sex scene. I feel like it's just going to turn into a hentai midway, and so I feel like a lot of the subtle you know, if it's like plot relevant, like inserting it works, you know, instead of having like a 2-minute section. Because I just don't know what you're supposed to do, especially with American films. There's this so common in all like teen romance, like teen adult, young adult romance or whatever, or even like any random like action film, there's always a 2-3 minute sex scene, always. And I just remember as a kid, every time, my dad isn't really like into it. Who's the person who's asking for these sex scenes? And they most of the time don't have any really big significance. It's just like, the most you could say is, oh, well, this scene shows a big turn in this person's life where they were a loser, but now they're having sex. And that's basically it. And I feel like you need a bigger justification to make, you know, the whole audience watch 3 minutes of porn on screen. Because that's what you're doing. Like, I don't know. Did you have ever, it seemed like you were with me when you're like, bro, what am I supposed to do? The parents don't like it either. And these are family films too.
なんかそういうのが出たら、なんか、私の家族の場合は、my mom が確かなんか、はぁとかなんかため息つき始めるっていう。
Yeah, dude, my dad every time would always he'd always say something about it too. It'd just make it even worse. I will say Berserk, great sex scene. Gosh, what was the other one I mentioned? That one might have been effective too. Oh yeah, but I you know, it's been done tastefully a few times. But yeah, thanks for the comments. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com. We might respond to the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And teacher Ayami.
Signing off. じゃあねー。